Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel for the Atari 800 computer here. And for those of you who are new, you can actually keep up with this section. I've actually covered a lot of things already, mostly basic and assembly language, but having more of a focus on assembly language at this time. But you can learn a lot of things basically by checking out my channel in general. I've started with basic programs, simple little things to kind of teach people how to make simple games and stuff like that, and kind of moved on to doing some more advanced assembly language take apart kind of things. And this section right here is actually the continued of the machine language game I've been working on. It's still untitled at this time. It was originally extracted from my Deadman. You can kind of see it here in the background a little bit, and I'll zoom in on it here in a minute, show it to you. But one of my goals is to really create a 100% machine language game in the Atari home computer that's going to be reminiscent of something like Blue Max or anything you see out there. Basically, it's going to have full scrolling. It's going to be one of those games that you'd want to play when you watch it already. This game's already got a few different things I've added into it, and I'll show you some of the things. I've added actually an elevator into the levels where you can kind of travel through the levels and stuff like that. I've finally got the jumping and gravity working to an extent. I have it working kind of okay, but it's still kind of funny in some parts. It still seems to catch on some of the screens and seems to be real, basically real sensitive. So I'm still working on fixing some of that. I've come across some pretty big milestones though. For the longest time today, and the reason why I haven't posted in a while, is my game, the screens were not, basically they were not looking correctly. There was a lot of garbage on the screen, and I couldn't figure out for the longest time what was going on. And just this evening, it dawned on me that the program was so big, by the time I assembled it and ran it in memory, it was actually running into other areas of memory which are known as the display list, which basically holds screen information. So if your program is really big and you start running into the display list, you're going to see little things show up on the screen, and maybe I could even put up that other game and show you what it was doing. It was basically messing everything up, and I kept going into code trying to figure out what's wrong with this, and finally it's like, oh, I see. So basically I had to move memory back a little bit in some of the pages to be able to get it to look correctly. Well, let me kind of show it to you for right now so you can kind of see what's going on. And by the way, this camera is doing it no justice at all. I mean, if you could see the actual display here, it looks really great. I'm going to even turn off the light here. Isn't going to change it a whole lot. But I mean, the colors here, it's got like a really nice pretty blue down here at the bottom, and this is actually water. You can't see it, but it's animated water moving at the bottom down here. And this is just some things I put in the screen. This was going to be some kind of funny looking creature that was coming after you, but it basically looks like a blur on the screen here. So let me kind of grab my joystick here and drop it. Kind of show you some of the screens. I've added several screens here, so he can jump just like usual. He jumps, he'll basically travel through the levels, and he'll go up and toward the top and stuff like that. I also need to clear out some garbage. You might see that still showing up here from the character. Some of the areas are still picking up the character, so I just need to erase that. That's just kind of some of the things I put into it. But I mean, he's got the ability to jump and stuff like that. So if you go up here, you can kind of well, see, he kind of walks across it, but you can make him jump if you hold the button and everything. But I'm gonna have to fix it and work on the gravity a little bit better later. Here's another screen I've been working on. This thing here at the bottom. Oops, you just fell down here. You see this green thing in the middle there? That's the elevator, and I have it set up right now where you can actually move that. I just have to change the control here to be able to move it and show you. It moves up and down. Hopefully it's going to move. There it goes. Okay, it's actually erasing one here. So it actually moves up and down. It'll travel between levels later when I get it. You'll be able to like board it and travel to one level to the next. So those levels you can't get to. And see the way I've added it earlier, when he was running and stuff like that, if he fell or anything, he would not fall down, but now he'll actually fall down, so he could actually end up like that, or if you jump up, he can jump back up on the levels. If you hold the button in, he can eventually start. I don't like it because he can actually jump through the walls right now. Let me see. See, he kind of goes through the walls and he ends up here at the top. So I need to kind of fix that. But here's some of the other screens. I've added some of the multicolor screens here too. So these are here multicolor. You can actually create your own individual colors within the spectrum and kind of make a really nice looking game, basically. And I wish you could see it over here. It looks really, really great. I mean, looking at it on the screen here, it doesn't really do it a whole lot of justice. Let me see. Kind of center this a little bit. Make it a little bit better there. So, I'll show you some of the code if you want to be able to see it. So you can actually tell I made this game. If you look here at the top, I even put my name in it. Steve's. This actually said 100%, but the number of characters right now is being redefined, so I need to move them up so they don't end up erasing the numbers. Instead of move it up to the next characters in memory. It would say Steve's 100% machine language game. So here's kind of another screen. This is kind of like one of the first screens you see. And then they just kind of repeat over here. I haven't really added anything more to them. So basically that's what I have for right now. Nope. He's jumping all over the place here. I hate when you get stuck at the top there. So that's kind of where I'm at, and you see the little message here. You can't see it at the bottom. There's a message here that actually says the elevator is near, so when you come near something, you'll get like screen messages and stuff like that. And I also added sound in it, but the sound is not working correctly here, so I don't know what to do about that. See, if he hits the walls, he also goes through them. So watch, if I go over here, you see also how, watch this. He goes here on the wall. Instead of falling, in 2 seconds, which I'll probably have to space these walls apart, because in 2 seconds here, the jumping's not working correctly. Let's see here. There we go. In 2 seconds here, when I go down here again, if I move fast, I can jump across the wall. So later I'm going to have that. So space the walls apart, so if you go to try to jump, the distance is not going to be far enough, they're going to fall and stuff like that. I'm going to add some more character detail to it. I'm also going to add more illumination down here for the water and make it more colorful. Oh look, you can actually see it now. I just came in here, you can actually see the message. Let's even go over here, you can probably see the water too now. And it doesn't pick up on that screen, but it picks up on this screen. That's kind of weird how the camera sometimes picks it up and doesn't pick it up. So anyways, if you want to see the code, I'll go into that, because I know people are always interested in how I did this. I'll show you all the new stuff I've been working on and adding to the game here. But just wanted to give you an idea. Let me see if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else I added to it. I don't think so. Let me see what's over here. You can kind of see the water down here now when it's sitting at the top there a little bit. So we go over here. I'm gonna make it look real like he's jumping. I like how you can walk up and down. So okay, this is another. This is like one of the first rooms I had basically. When I go over here though, if I go to a room that's not existent in the game, it freezes my man character. Now he's going to be moving across the screen here, and I'm not going to have any more control over him at this point. It won't let me drop him or anything. So something I'm still working on. Some of the things I'm still trying to fix it, perfect it. So let's go into the code here now. This thing is getting really large too. When I went to look at it in DOS, it was already one file was like 140 sectors. I mean, considering that in Atari, sectors don't usually take up a whole lot when you're designing programs, but when you start making them really large, they can really start eating up those sectors. So the sectors are just how the disk drive stores information. So let me see what I got new in here. I got a lot of new stuff in this. These are all the how he checks and goes between rooms. So just if you want to change a room, first you would load the room. I might have showed this before, but you would load the room and then you would compare it to see which room number he's in. Like if he's in 29, I just set a label called room 29 and he'll go to there. If he's less than 29, it makes it go to another place I called room less, so basically it doesn't end up drawing nothing on the screen. And then here's 30 and so on. And this is for the max too. If he's greater than 33, it'll go to Iron Max. Some of the things I've added into it. Now let's see, these are just some of the new drawings I did. Let's see, this is actually the message you saw earlier on the screen when it said about the elevator is near, right here. No, I'm sorry, that's probably down here. No, this is zeroed out. This zeroes out the message for the elevator. Right here, race the elevator message. Okay. And down here, is where it draws the message. It says EL message, X, so it's just basically reading it in 21 bytes for that message, which is stored in another file. I'll straighten that out a little bit. Let's see. I have to turn the TV this way. I don't know, my camera just, I mean, it always looks like at an angle. Okay, so looking here, I probably didn't explain this in other videos, but I'll go into explanation on this one. These right here, these are the drawing, excuse me, these are drawing the screen. So when you go to certain screens, this is actually going to draw the levels if there's no level existing. Basically, that's what I have this one set up for. And these are all the places where it stores it screen line by screen line. And then basically here it's picking up another part in the program, which is the S byte section for the declarations, and it draws whatever's inside of those. And I'll show you those maybe later if I don't run out of time here. And this is not going to cover the entire game, because I've explained it. If you watch if you actually watch one of my other like the earlier assembly language video I have for this game, actually in general, I think it's called Atari Assembler 65 game or something like that. I explain a lot about this game because it's the same game, but basically I've changed it a whole lot. You'll notice I've changed a lot of things in it. I think it's looking pretty good now. Alright, and then more drawing of the screen. These are how the numbers are calculated. And somebody was asking me about this, and basically he's right. You would use the SED to set the decimal, and then you basically would convert it using the binary conversion system to do it. So I'm just barely learning how to do this, so I'm still new at this stuff. I'm also new to fine scrolling, but I'm getting there. Those are some of the more advanced features with the Atari. Let's see here. Binary coded decimal. I've showed this one in other videos, but this is the river animation. It's basically going through a character set I set up here in memory, and I divide it by 2 here to basically go ahead and calculate where this character may be shifting the bytes, and then I add with carry to that digit to make it look like it's shifting a bit. Basically it takes one character and it shifts it over to give the affection of the animation. Now, I've showed all this before. This is actually that little thing you see moving all the way across the screen. It used to be a ball, and I turned it into some funny looking character. And this is how it's being tracked. It's created in something called a vertical blank interrupt, which basically it runs in the background and it doesn't affect your system, so it looks a lot more smoother when it's running. Okay, reset ball. This is the ball, even though it's no longer a ball. Let's see here. This just clears out the character. I was trying to add some animation too into this, but it's still not working correctly. I think something with my counters are not correct. So basically I have an animation counter going, saying if it's at 50, then we go to the first animation. If it's at 100, we go to the second one, and so on. So I think for some reason it might just be resetting this too fast. So I probably need to fix this. I notice it drops right into here. So I might need to make it jump out or something like that to get it working correctly. And I'll probably work on refining that later. That's not a whole big issue for me. And this right here draws the animation. Let's see, down here, these are my vertical, I've probably explained this in another video, but these are my displayless interrupts. These are what allow me to basically take like a block, or I actually have a little wall brick in my game, and basically imbue the colors in it, and I can go in and I can alter and change my own colors with this line here that says COL line, X. I think it's down here. Yeah, right here. I just basically set these little colors. These are actually colors that are being set inside of this color register and changing it. There is still some issues while I'm trying to do this, like with the player, to be able to change the color in the player. I still run into some problems when I try to do it with the player, so I haven't really implemented that fully yet. I think this is the end of this one. Let's see. This is, I've showed this before, but basically you would lower the top of memory so you can make room for your player graphics so it doesn't run into other parts of your memory. And these are setting up like the score in the game. The vertical blank interrupt is right there. This is all the display list is being set up. For those who want to know the more advanced stuff, it's basically taking the high and the low byte and basically taking those scan lines. If you watch my editor display list video, you'll see that there's scan lines on the screen that are actually being controlled by raster lines implemented into the computer, because your computer is basically scanning, your television is scanning a horizontal beam across the screen, and when it finds a line and it returns to the top, it basically creates this line that you can actually draw and control in the Atari computers. You can actually do it on Commodore too, but it's a little more tricky. I've actually done it before. And let's see, this is just more of the screen setup and display list. This is how you initialize the display list interrupts. These are just some of the colors I have in the game. Okay, let's load the second file. See, I've actually got 3 of them now. Before I had 2, but there's actually a third one, so I've kind of spaced them apart because they're getting very large. This one is really large. It takes a while to load this one. Okay, if you look here at the top here, you'll see that this is all the new stuff I've added into the game here. I've added the wall clean, which I demonstrated earlier. When you jump on the walls, he grabs the walls. I've added gravity, which makes him fall on the screen, and then all the new rooms you're going to see in. Let's see if there's anything new in here. I think it was down here. I've added this wipe screen implementation to the game, which is supposed to be able to clear the screen, but it's still not working correctly. I just need to check on that one. And these are just building the players. This is the score. I've added the score to make it print on the screen right away. Let's see here. This probably gets a little more tricky down here. This is actually the... oh no, I've actually exited this out. Originally I had it checking for like a collision before you do anything with the joystick, but I ran into some problems. When I do that, he basically starts flying around a lot. He doesn't fall anymore, so I took that out. Here's the one I had in before, but I actually added it back in to get the gravity to work. I have it basically checking for gravity at all times. So it's basically constantly moving the player down until he hits something. This right down here is a routine. I set up the elevator control, which you saw that thing moving up and down earlier. That's the elevator. I didn't show this one earlier, but if you're not pressing the button, then the player's falling. That's what this one's doing. It's going to this routine, which makes him fall. I had to do some pretty good checks on that gravity implementation to get that to work, because earlier when I was trying to do the gravity and a player would fall down on the screen, if you go to try to press the button and make him jump again, it already reset his what actually is known as the jump range, which is a variable I used in the game, and it wouldn't let him jump up again. So I had to do some thinking to kind of get that, tinkering with it to get it to work. This is just more screen drawing. This is for screen 32, which is, this is the one after the elevator, so it's the next one over this way. This is the sound implementation I'm still working on. I did add a sound into the game. I think maybe I have these reset incorrectly or something. I just need to check that these frequencies are correct in the sound, because if something's not initialized correctly in the sound, then you won't hear anything, especially if the frequency is drowning itself out or something like that. So I'm not really big on sound and music. You probably noticed in my games they're pretty quiet, but that's kind of like the last thing I'll do. So when I was making that Dead Man game several years ago, I put sound in it, but I did it at the very last minute. Alright, let's see here. Trying to see if there's anything new in here. This is all old stuff. Here's the elevator routine. You saw earlier moving that green thing up in the middle. That's the funny looking elevator I've created. I've actually have it set up right now, so if you just plug in the second joystick, you can control that, because I didn't want it to interfere with your main joystick control. But later I'll have it so basically if you touch it, like if you walk into it, it'll basically seize control of the elevator with the same joystick, and you'll be able to move it up and around through the screens. And I'll also want to basically be able to make it pass through each level, so as he comes to a level, he can get off at a certain level, but he can't get off in between and stuff like that. And let's see, that's just the movement. This is just basically draws the elevator here. I think this one is, yeah, this zeroes it out. That's what the loaded accumulator zero is clearing it out. So you want to erase the elevator as you're moving it, and then after you erase it, you want to draw it again. So this is where he draws it at. Let's see what this next one is. This right here is what I was telling you earlier, how you use the elevator and you can travel from room to room. Now I haven't created all the screens in the game yet, so if you go to move up and down through the screens, they're going to look identical until I start adding new rooms. But I have it here, basically, it takes the room, whichever value it is. So if we're in the elevator room, that's 31 I believe, as you start traveling up, it would subtract 8 from that and add it back into the room to get the new room. So basically it keeps track of it. It subtracts if it goes up, and then it adds with carry, so basically it'll add it if it goes down. So that's how you basically find out which room you're in. You just calculate which way you're going. And I have it set up for 8 because I usually do mine 8 by 8. That's usually a good size. You don't want to make them too big, especially if you start running into memory consumption like I've been running into earlier. Let's see, this is moving the elevator down. And lets it go down to 225, which is actually off the screen. I'll probably fix that later. Clearing the elevator out, drawing it. And here's what I was telling you earlier, so if you're moving down the screen, you take the room and you add 8 to it, and you store it in the room. So then this would actually check, just make sure you're in the new room. Try to see it down here. This is all the joystick stuff. I've showed this before, so I'm going to kind of skip through this. Excuse me. This is the player jumping on the screen. I've showed that before, so I won't go into a lot of detail with that. I wanted to show you the new things I've added into this sending. So now when he's falling, what we're doing here is we're checking a collision between anything he's touching on the screen, whether he's touching a wall or if he's touching a player. Actually, the player I removed, but I've had it touching. If he touches an object here, it'll check. See, once he's touched that, it's going to go to this label I've called Z range. And if you look down here, Z range is clearing out another label called jump range, because when you press the button, the jump range is incrementing. So each time you press it, it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it goes up to 20. So I made it say once you hit an object, reset that so he doesn't jump back up anymore. At that point, once you touch an object, you don't want to be able to jump. And I wanted to stop him from jumping through objects, but I haven't fixed that yet. But it does stop him and allows the jump to be reset so he can start jumping up again where before it wasn't working correctly. And I found out the reason why it wasn't is because I needed to add this thing in. Earlier, I think I had it either branch not equal, or I might have had it saying branch is equal. And I wanted to make it say branch is equal to 1 or greater than 1. So basically it checks for the collision correctly. Okay, and this resets, this checks jump range. Yeah, this is just checking to see if it's at 0 here. And here's the one that determines if this is not at 0, then he's going to keep falling, because it means you press the button and he's probably not touching an object, so he's falling in midair. So he's not touching anything, so he's falling at this point. And this just jumps out of the loop as he starts to fall. Okay, let's see here. This is clears the collisions for the player missile graphics, so if you touch something like that on the screen, you want to make sure you reset the collisions. This moves him up the screen, so if you're not, I think this is up, let's see. Decrement X lock, yeah, this is moving him up if you're not, if you press the fire button, I'd have to find out where this is coming in, but this is making him jump up. Probably comes up from over there somewhere. Okay, and there's the collisions being cleared right there. Here's where it goes to the fall. So basically, if you haven't hit anything yet, and he's like in open air, open space, decrement jump range is going to keep decrementing your jump range. So remember earlier, if it goes up, you increment jump range, but as soon as it falls, it starts decrementing. That's what creates the illusion of falling. And this is all the falling code right here. So he falls and draws off the player on the screen and all that. I've showed this before. This is just a regular joystick to control the player. Again, I'm just trying to go over new stuff that I've added recently. Down movement, that's all the same. So it's over here. I've showed this before. If you're moving left, you jump left. Same thing if you're moving right, you can jump right if you're pressing the fire button. Okay. Nothing new there really. Let's see. That's just right movement. I also had to change when you move in the joystick, this one's moving him to the right. So as you're walking over here to the right and you hit 195, this is going to reset the room. Earlier I had it so he could go up to like 210. I noticed if I went up to 210 though, I'd be walking off the objects, like walking off the ledges and stuff, then he would just start falling. So I wanted to make sure before he gets off the black, reset the room and go to the new room. And this does the same thing with the left position. Well, actually this is the left room. So once you go into the left room, this resets the left room to the player's position. So if you go all the way over here to the left, it'll reset his position over here to 195, because as you walk off the screen, your player's always going to reappear on the opposite side. And this is the same thing for the right. So if you walk all the way over here, it's going to reset him all the way over here at location 50 in his horizontal position there. And let's see. This is the ladders. I'll probably add this in later, but I used the jumping ability to jump between levels, but maybe I can make the ladder be more useful later. So I started doing some pretty cool stuff with it. This is the player. Let's see what this is down here. This is player 3. I think this is, yeah, this is the elevator. So basically I draw the elevator on the screen the first time. And these are the colors for the elevator. This is the position. It's at position 94, so it's kind of in the center of that hole you saw at the bottom there. This is the size of the elevator, and this is the priority, but I didn't use that yet. If you want to know about the graphics modes, check out my other video on assembly graphics programming. I explain a lot about how those are used, so I'm not going to go into detail with them here. Kind of break it up in segments that way for you. This is drawing room 30. This is draws all the levels again. And what I mean by the levels is you've got like sections that's drawing in sections. There's a scrape in the screen here, and that's what this is doing. It's just drawing it in sections. And these are the different screen positions. And this is the wire. You didn't get to see it earlier because it didn't show up here at the bottom, but I basically broke up the drawing of the wire to make it look, give it more of an effect. And this is just drawing it at different positions here. Here's what I was telling you about earlier. This is the high and the low byte to be able to clear the screen memory. And it's calculated here, 64 plus 158. I put equals, I should say times 256 equals 37,952. So for some reason this still isn't working correctly. I'll have to test it again, but basically right now as my screens are being drawn, I really don't need to reset them, but if you go to a new screen, I want to make it like that as a new screen, so I'll keep working on that. Let's see what this is. 31. This is the room for the elevator, so it's checking for the elevator here. Oh, so this is basically saying once you're in the elevator room, draw it on the screen. If you're not on the elevator, then erase it. So this makes it so it doesn't show the elevator in every single room. I think I got that correct. I'd have to run the game and look at it again to make sure. This is the ladder. Oh no, this is the floors. It draws the floors right here. So you don't see it as the screens are being drawn, but there's actually level floors being drawn across the screen. This just saves me having to put them in other places. Made it a little bit faster for me. Draw them that way. There's ladders. This is the character set. I haven't gone into a lot of detail about it, but you basically have to move the character set in memory. If you watch, maybe I'll set up another video later to show you how to redefine a character set, which I'm planning to do soon. But once you have a character set up, you can just go ahead and change the pixels or the bytes in the actual individual graphing of the character. And that's what this is doing. It's moving the memory to set up the new character set. Because when you have an Atari character set in memory, you can't go in immediately and change it because it's already stored in ROM. ROM means read-only memory, so you can't write over it. So you have to move it to RAM, read-only memory, where you can actually write over it. And that's what this is basically doing, is it's moving it to its new location so you can modify it. And down here, these are, I've showed this before, but these are the positions in increments of 8. So if you divide this by 8, you'll see how many characters I have in the game here. Ready? I had originally had up to 96, but I've added a few different more for the animations that you saw with the character earlier. That was that guy moving on the screen. And as you keep adding them in, you want to keep track of which characters you're overriding. Because you probably couldn't tell earlier, but I've noticed as it's gone through the characters, it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that eventually it's starting to overwrite some of the numbers that are set up in the Atari character set. So I need to make it check, or I could probably just set up another loop here instead of making it check. I'll just set up a separate loop to basically skip in memory. So I'll basically say something like CHRADR plus this to skip over where that number character set may be and be able to continue my new character set. And these are all the declarations I've used for the game. This is setting up the DLI, what's called the DLI color plots as the scan lines are going across the screen, and you're changing the individual colors in the characters and stuff like that. That gives them the multicolors you've seen on this in my game here already. And you've probably seen them in other games too. I've noticed Quasimodo and some of these that I've been watching online that people have put on YouTube that actually implement control of the colors. And it's actually known as Antic Mode. I think it's Antic Mode 4. It might be Antic Mode 5 or 4, where you can actually have up to 5 colors. But if you use the displayless interrupts as I'm using for this one, you can actually have more than just 5. And I was running the game earlier and show you what I mean by that, but let me just finish this up for people who want to know. These are drawing the characters. This is my character. You may have noticed in one of my other videos, my earlier video when I showed the game, the character would only move in one direction. He would face one direction. So as you move the joystick over to the right, he would face to the right, he would face, actually the way I had to set up earlier is if you move it over to the left, he would face to the left. But if you try to move it to the right, he would still be facing to the left. So now I have it so he faces both directions. And then I'll add animation in with him later too. Those are kind of some of the last things I usually do in games. These are the animations for the new creature, but they're still not working correctly because of that counter. I just need to probably reset that counter, and that would probably get that working correctly as I just move my screen here. Alright, and these are some of the walls and character shapes. These are all right here, these are all the new characters I've been adding into my character set. I kind of like comment sometimes cliff ledges and what they basically are doing there. And let's see. You're going to see a lot of stuff on the screen here in a minute, but these are actually all the screens being drawn down here. This is the elevator message you might saw earlier. The elevator is near. So when you saw that ELMES comma X earlier, it was basically reading in these bytes to be able to print that message out. And this is screen 1. And this right here is screen 30. So this right here is the one where you saw me walking over to the ledges, and you saw the ledges over here, and you saw them over here. So I just basically drew them in where I wanted them. Just took some positioning to get that correctly. So if you have this also off, if you have this off by number or whatever, it'll shift your data over. So you have to make sure that they're all. I have mine always set as 40 characters, since the screen goes from 0 to 40. This is the water down here. So what I was showing you earlier in that water animation is it takes the character here, we turn it into a little wavy line, and we start shifting those lines, and as we're shifting them, they look like they're moving. That's the easier way to create animation. I need to get more animation into this game now that I think about it, but those are kind of the last things I usually like to put in. These are more of this drawing screens. I think this is right here. You see this hole down the middle. This is the elevator room right here. There's that message you saw earlier. I just stuck that in my code and just read it out to the screen. And this is the screen over to where the elevator room is. This is the screen that's over to the right. So this is the next one in sequence. And these are all necessary because these are all drawing the entire screen. So this is going line by line by line by line by line. So I actually number them here as I start reading them out. I just have them up to 5, but it basically will read out like 80. I think it's like 120 at a time or something like that. 120 characters. And that's the end of that one. I can show you the last one. It's basically very similar to this one. And I'll go ahead and run the game again here. I'm going to show you some examples I was talking about earlier. So, oops. Where'd that destroy that? I'm going to stop this being in the dark. This shows all the new things I've added in. The roof ledges and the cliffs and stuff like that. And this is actually the... well, I showed you earlier the cliff ledges. I had it in that editor file earlier, but this is earlier when I was trying to run the game and I kept seeing all that extra data showing up in memory because I was colliding in memory. I didn't know that was it, that was the problem, so I basically kept moving around where this where these screen characters were reading in the memory byte by byte, because I thought maybe something was wrong with the way my positioning of my screens were, like maybe I had this off by a few bytes or something like that. A little later did I realize that it was a memory issue. With Atari, you always have to make sure you're occupying the correct points in memory. If you're not occupying the correct points, then you're going to start colliding into other things. So let me go ahead and let's just basically go back to DBT and I can access this already. Oops. Oh, you know what? I probably have to reassemble it. Let me see. You're right there. Yeah. Probably wiped it out. Let me just reassemble this. Load this and then reassemble it. And before I do that, I'll explain something here. What I was talking earlier about running into memory problems earlier, I had this counter, this is known as a counter here, set at 32767, which is 8,000 hex. But what happened eventually is some of my characters that were drawn on the screen were set up like 38,800 that I was drawing on the screen. So by the time my program was reading through it line by line here, it eventually started running into some of my data, which started leaving garbage all over the screen. I'm surprised it didn't erase my program, but it probably haven't got to that part yet. I've had that happen before though, where I've actually just let it keep going and bypassed all the data showing up on the screen, but I kept erasing it. But eventually it started overwriting my program, so you have to make sure you reposition it. So I basically moved the counter back here to 24,900. This seems to be a safe place. And eventually it's going to start coming back up to where the screen memory is, and I'll probably have to find other places to move it around. So unfortunately on the Atari you're really limited on memory size because they're 64-bit computers, but technically you only really have access to about 16K. So you have to really be able to write really basically real compressed areas in memory to be able to get code going. I'm still not an expert on that, but I'm still working on it. I get carried away and I always like to add a million different screens, but let me go ahead and assemble this. It'll take it a second to get it going. That time I have to go get a drink. I'm going to make this thing look straight enough. I can zoom it up a little bit too. Okay. Falling already. There's nothing on the screen, so I'm falling at this point. Seems spawned on an empty screen here. You can see him falling there. See how he's falling. Okay, what I wanted to show you earlier. Actually, I noticed that this one's coloring coming in a lot better. Let's see. You can actually see the water animation down here now. You couldn't see it earlier. Camera's picked up better as I zoomed it in. Over here. Whoops. I hate when he goes all the way at the top. He gets stuck up there. Something I still have to work on there. So you see these colors here. You probably can't see it, but there's actually a myriad of different colors here. You're looking at like a brown, a white, a gray, a yellow, and there's a blue down in here. So you can actually mix your own colors within each of these characters. And this one only has red because I have not changed this one. I just use this one as my brick, which looks pretty good with this one as you start kind of mingling it in like that, you know, intermingling it. And later I'm going to change it so that I can control this color down here and use this separately up here. So basically I'll set another, what's called a display list interrupt down here, because you can change them and you can trap them wherever you want them to appear on the screen. So I can basically take control of this color down here, which is the background color for 712, and then I can use this one, which is 710, for another color. So that's how you do some of the tricks to be able to get more colors in your game to make it look more realistic. Oops. He's like bouncing around too. I don't know if you can see, but he's really bouncing around. I need to fix that because when he's falling, it's basically jumping him back up and down. Like it's still funny. It's still acting funny on a collision or something. I need to be able to reset it and make it stop. Once you hit the wall, it should be able to freeze the horizontal position and leave them, or leave the X and the Y where they were originally at. So I haven't had a lot of time to really work on that. If you look here, you can actually see some more of the colors in this one. This has got like a red, and you probably can't see it over here, I noticed, but it's got a lot of pretty colors in it here. And I even changed, I even changed some of the coloring up in here too. And I had like a green, a blue, and this one's just blue up here. So you can kind of add your own color tricks to it. You might have seen a lot of games do that, but that's how they did it. I love how he just like, something wrong with the fire button too, and this, if I press the fire button, it takes a little bit of a second or two for it to really activate. So if I hold it, maybe, there it is. Yep, he went too far. This is how you can walk right over the ledge. I probably need to separate these, because if I have it like real far over, like see that time he missed it. Going to get back up here. Okay, he's on the ledge. If I hold the button, he jumps. Ah, he actually fell that time. Let's see if I can walk all the way across him. Oh, I can't. So if I space him far enough, he won't be able to walk all the way across him. So I'll have it later, so if you walk across this and you fall down the water, you could drown or something like that. There's kind of fun stuff you can do into it. And make a sound effect for the drowning or something like that. Oh, I noticed that time he did go across it. So I really need to work on that collision because it's not making the game too easy, basically. Let's see. Okay, I'm on it. So yeah, press the fire button. There it goes. And sometimes it wants to go up, sometimes it doesn't. So I press it once, twice. Nope. I think it has something to do with that counter I had set up in the game. Let's see what's over here. I showed you this one. It was just got a lighter. So if I go over here, it'll keep repeating the same thing here. No. And this is actually where I was telling you earlier. I need to fix this. If you go out of the screen, it freezes the character. So I have to reset the game here again for it to work. I noticed this time the elevator appeared here. It's not supposed to. Let's erase it. Let's see. Okay, that time it erased it. Probably need to make it erase it right away when it appears on the screen. It's only supposed to appear in this room, or any of the rooms that are actually designated as the elevator rooms. Let's see if there's anything wrong with the elevator here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, because it leaves the character, so I need to basically be able to erase this and keep track of where the elevator is, because I noticed your character position's down here when you moved earlier, so just some of the other things I'm still working on to fix it. But see, later I'll have it so you can stop between these different levels here and get off at the elevator and stuff like that. Platform or whatever you want to call it. So they should be able to like jump between them and stuff like that. Let's see if there's anything else I noticed I might need to fix. Let's see what's over here. This repeats the rooms too as you go farther over. I haven't drawn all those rooms yet. I like the green water on here, it's kind of cool. I noticed earlier this was blue and now this is green. That's probably why it's showing up here. I don't know why that's changed. That's kind of weird. That's basically it for those who want to know. Let's see if I can get this in any better to really show you what this color looks like. And move it up to the screen. It looks a little bit better that way. It moves around. Let's see. I'm going to have it when you touch walls later like this, you won't be able to go through them. Right now he just kind of jumps up through the screen. Because anytime you're touching something on the screen, he's just jumping through the walls for now. It's a little fuzzy on that collision. That's not bad, I guess. I mean, it looks a lot better than the other game I've designed from before, so I think it's got some promise in it. I wonder why he moved on his own that time. That's the cool things though, once you start learning assembly language and stuff like that, you can really start designing your own stuff. I'm going to kind of turn on my light here. But yes, if you're definitely interested in assembly language programming, I mean, this is the kind of the results, the stuff you can create. You can start creating your own games and join the community of those people who have already done it before. I know people are going to argue that the Atari computer is a pretty old computer, and there's a lot better systems out there to design games on, and I've actually done that already too. I designed games in Dark Basic. I have one on my channel, but I grew tired of it and wanted to go back to the Atari because one of my goals, which I've never accomplished, was to be able to master some of the more advanced stuff on the Atari and the advanced graphics and the fine scrolling and things I've never been successful at before, so I figured I'm gonna have a go at it and see how it goes. I noticed as soon as I got this channel up, people started watching it and they were kind of interested in the Atari computer again. I guess there's some clubs out there, United Kingdom and other places, that are interested in this kind of thing. So if you definitely are, go ahead and subscribe. You know, I'll keep getting these videos out there, and keep you updated with the game in progress here, but I'll also keep the tutorials going for all the other people who are still looking for the regular tutorial sessions. This is just going to be kind of like an in-between, so as I continue to get newer stuff into the game and it looks a lot better and it's more closer to being finished, stuff like that, I'll start showing you this is the next part of the game, this is the next part, or whatever, and kind of break it up that way. So yes, I guess that'll be about it at this point, and I want to thank you guys for watching, and you guys have yourself a great day.